Hi guys, Dave Pinson here. Video for Jesus. I think that's what this is for. Maybe Philippine Bible Ministry. We are Philippine Bible Ministry in the Philippines. We're also Full for Christ on a video, hence Video for Jesus. So today I want to talk about when you get stuck on the narrow path. What are you talking about? Stuck on the narrow path? Wide is the path to destruction. Narrow is the path that you should take. Straight and narrow. That's what Jesus said. Wide is the path. Many take the path to destruction. What are you talking about getting stuck on the narrow path? Well, I'm reading one of the books I'm reading right now is Elizabeth Elliot, and it's on the guidance of the Lord or something like that's the title. And I want to talk about Elizabeth seeking the guidance of God. I think is the title. I want to talk about Elizabeth Elliot just for half a second because I realize sometimes I'll just throw stuff out there, and I expect everybody to know everything I know, which is something that you think I would have figured out at this age that they don't. And I think maybe I'm not the only one guilty of that. Like, I assume all Christians know that are my age that have been walking with the Lord since the 90s know the same Christian music I do, and I find out they don't. And, lots of things you just assume the people will know who these people are that you think are the great heroes of the faith, and they just look at you like, well, I go to church and but not everyone is going to be an avid reader or whatnot. But there's a great movie called The Edge of the Spear, and there's another documentary called The Gates of Splendor, and there's also many books about these guys. Um, who were martyred, who went into the Alca Indians in the Amazon, and they were killed by spears by these savages. And then Elizabeth Elliot, her husband, Jim Elliot, is the one. I'm gonna butcher the quote, but you're a fool. Why are you going in there? Those people, they've always killed. There's never been anybody that went in there that came out alive. They've killed everyone. Even all the local people are afraid of them. And these people, the Alcas, they're scary people. What are you doing? And he says, well, God called us to go in there. He goes, yeah, and he says, no, no one's a fool who lays down. Let's see if I can not butcher the quote. Who lays down that which he cannot keep to receive that which he cannot lose, or something like that. So let me just explain what he was talking about. He goes, I'm not a fool because I'm following God. Even if I lose my life, it's worth it because these people are more important than me. Because ultimately, I'm always telling you guys, it's all about denying yourself and others. And if you don't live your life that way, if you live life in this practical, well, you can't go in there because you'll get killed. And that's true. And most people shouldn't go in there unless God tells you to go in there. There's another movie I would ask that you watch called Free Burma Rangers, a documentary. Watch it. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's actually a true story. It's a documentary. These guys are called the Burma Rangers. It's not a military operation, although some of them carry guns, but they go into they run into danger in Jesus' name. And it's just an amazing story. You should watch it called Free Burma Rangers. All right, so Elizabeth Elliot was talking about sometimes you can get stuck on the narrow path, and the path is so narrow you can't turn around. And now, does that sound crazy to you? Because you're in Jesus' path, the narrow path, right? You've denied yourself. You're doing the stuff, and you're saying whatever you want, Lord. And, you just do the next thing in front of you. Oh, I didn't finish the story. Sorry, there goes my brain. So Elizabeth Elliot, after her husband and I think it was 5 or 6 men were killed. I'm sorry about the details. As you know, if you watch my videos, I'm not very detailed oriented. But I know that there was a group of missionaries that went down to meet these people in this little stretch of sand on the Amazon. And they were all murdered. Um, and everybody was sad and they all left except for Elizabeth Elliot and I think Saint, what's his name? Steve Saint. I think his sister and Elizabeth Elliot and her daughter. And I think a little boy from the other, I'm not sure, but I know her sister. And I think there was other children, but I know that Elizabeth Elliot and her daughter went in to live with the Alca Indians who had murdered her husband because she felt like that was what she was supposed to do. And when she went in, amazing story. People get saved, and the Indians were like, I'm sorry, Indians. The natives were like, "What's going on here? What are you doing? Don't you know?" At the end of the day, it's an amazing story. It's called The Edge of the Spear. So that's who Elizabeth Dale. And then later on, she wrote many books, and she does lecture series. She always says when Gateway to Joy, I think is the name of it. Is that the name of it? You are love with a great love. You know. Anyway, she's always calling people to a higher calling of simplicity, and I just love Elizabeth Elliot. She's another one of my favorite that I like to listen to and read, and she's just very practical. She's not about the big thing. She's just about do what's in front of you, do the dishes, do whatever, and just do it with a grateful heart. Anyway, so Elizabeth Elliot wrote this book, and she's talking about when you're following God and you're going on the narrow path, sometimes you get to a place where you have to go on because you can't go back, right? No turning back, no turning back. And it just reminded me of a story I read one time. I posted it on my Notions. I have a book called Notions on the Christian Life, big old thick book like this. um, Long story on that. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but it started off as a series of posts on my Philippine Bible Ministry YouTube page years ago, and every day I would post a daily Notions, the Notions on the life. And eventually, a friend of mine, Robert, he uh, he encouraged me to print them, so I printed them on Amazon, and it was such a big book that I broke it down into sections. One of them is on, I forgot. One of them's on discipleship. One of them's on prayer and different things. So they're called Notions on the Christian Life on Amazon under the name David Pinson, Pinson. I know that I know I need help editing my books. They've been edited like 3 times now, and I'm just not very good at the details. So some of the times you'll see things that are not written out correctly, and it really bothers someone. I had someone who read one of my books, and the only remarks they left, because you can read remarks on Amazon when you read a book, and it was like, oh, I really love what the guy's saying, but there's so many typos. Like, yeah, why don't you help me out here, sister? Anyway, it's called "Burn the Boats," and it comes from an old. It's something I think that's something I heard a preacher say once, and it just stuck. There's things that just stick, and I love it. And I'm just like, this is so good. And talking about the Vikings, when the Vikings would go to colonize a new land, they would burn their boats. So that's what we call commitment. So and there's even a story, and there's even a song. So King and Country came out with a song about the story because their mama always told them the story about burning the boats, and they would go to a new land like Greenland, and when they went to Greenland, they would burn the boats. They would say, "Okay, what do you burn the boats for? Because you can't go back. You can't just give up and go back halfway through. If you're going to starve, you're going to starve. You're going to have to survive here." If you want to make new boats, you're going to have to. It's going to take a minute. You're going to have to cut down the logs, trim the logs. Do a lot of work. Meantime, instead of building boats, you might want to build places to live in, and you might want to plant some food, and you might want to find out what's going on here because we came here to survive. Because we're doing the mission that we came here for, right? And for me in my life, this is what happened in my life, guys. I'm gonna share my life with you guys. That's what I've been doing lately, and it's been very good for me. Therapeutic, baby. But I'm getting a lot of good response on this. Right. So when we decided, oh, so one more thing. It just reminds you of another song. I'm gonna have to go back and I'm gonna see if I can link how many things I can link up and look in the description. You'll see some links. There's a song called "Diving In" by Stephen Curtis Chapman. It came out way back in the O's. It's called "I'm Diving In." It's talking about you can't, you know, God can't drive a parked car. In order to take that step of faith, you're gonna have to jump in. There comes a time where you're learning and you're studying, trying to figure things out. And what am I? And then there comes a time when God says, "Okay, jump." Let me tell you something. When you jump, there's no turning back because you're jumped. You see what I'm saying? We used to go to this place called Three Falls in Oregon. And I was always a little. Some guys would dive in head first, and I was always jumping in feet first. But man, once you let yourself go off that cliff, once you go, you're committed, brother. Right? So when we sold everything and moved to the Philippines, we were doing that. We were jumping in. We didn't even know we were burning the boats because in the back of your mind, you always have this thought. Well, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back. Right? I can always go back if it doesn't work out. So we did it. We took that narrow path. Few people do what I've done, especially without support of an organization. People are always their minds are always blown. It's like, so who are you with? Oh, you're a missionary. Who are you with? Well, we're with Jesus. Well, what are you talking about? Well, we don't. You don't belong to a missionary association. No church sent you out. Well, there's people in churches that, because I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I said, "Honey, did people lay hands on us and send us out?" She goes, "Yeah, it happened here, it happened there, happened at a church, it happened at a gathering of more people than the church. It happened at another gathering of believers that was like a church, and it happened at another church. So four times we had hands laid on us, we were sent out. Not that that's required necessarily, because God sends people out. Sometimes He did do that in the book of Acts. Sometimes He just said go. I think it was it Philip that He just sent out to the Ethiopian. So anyway, we were sent out, right, and we're not part of any of that, right? Because I felt the calling, I felt the unction of the Lord, and I felt the Lord said, "You can do this." And the problem with those, or there's a good and a bad side about those organizations, right? The good side is you have support. You have some kind of support and whatever it is, right? The bad side is that you're not doing this; they're doing it. And you're their agent, which could be a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but I'd rather be his agent. How do you know? How do you know you're not? You're just a maverick. Someone said that to me. Um, Someone said that to me. We went and visited a church. When I told him the story, he said, "Oh, you're a maverick," and I thought it was a bad thing. And I went home and looked it up and said, "It's really not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing." Some people think it's a bad thing because there's some teachings in the church that came out years ago. It's called the what's it called? The discipleship. What's it called? The mentoring. Anyway, it was a big movement that came out of Florida, and it was about you have to be under a mentor and you have to be under the authority of somebody, and they're going to mentor you, and you can't even do anything until they release you, because instead of Jesus and the Holy Spirit tells me what to do. Because I there's a reason the veil of the temple was torn, right? It wasn't torn so that God could set up these people to make disciples of themselves, and then they'll let you know when it's time to go. That's not biblical. Really, it's not. I was reading this morning something. I'm on Facebook, and I have a pretty good presence there, here and there. And I was reading somebody said something. Well, God set up these apostles, and then He set up these bishops, and then He gave them authority, and then that's how it started. That's what happened, but that's not how it started. There was no organization that was doing that. The original purpose of a bishop, if you look up the history, once again I could send you something from this really cool website. It's called the History of the First Church or something. It's amazing, and it was talking about how that all started. And at the beginning, the bishop was to go into a place. He was an overseer, but he was like he would come in and investigate. It's kind of like they want to have peace with Iran, right? Well, they want these overseers to go in and make sure that they're not doing any nuclear program, right? So it's kind of like that. Like you will go into the area, and yeah, you'll be checking with people, you'll be ministering, you'll be teaching people, and you'll be seeing what they got, and you will help them get set up. But then you'll leave. It was never supposed to be what it became, because mankind, we have a tendency to want to organize and put things together, and that's just what we do. We Someone once said you can organize the Holy Spirit right out of that, right? So anyway, so that's how we came, and I don't know how I got on that tangent, but that's what I believe is that I do deal directly with the Lord, and the Lord said jump. He said, finally, after almost 30 years in the Lord, 30 years of seeking, 30 years of reading my Bible, 30 years of being kind of like a quasi associate pastor and a leader of men's ministry here and there, and a leader of children's ministry, not a leader, but someone who taught children here and there, eventually the VBS thing and all that. And then finally, after all that time of me seeking, feeling something in my spirit that God says, "There's something I want you to do, David," and not really being ready. And then finally reaching a point where I said, "Whatever you want, Lord." The Lord said, "Go." So we went, and here we are. And it's not what I thought it was going to be. My missionary mentor gave me warnings on all. This is what's going to happen. It's not going to be what you think it's going to be. It's going to take 2 or 3 years before you even know before your ministry even gets started, and God's going to send a lot of stuff into your life that you don't expect, and it's going to be very difficult. And He's right. Someone says, well, God guides, He provides. If it's difficult, you're probably in the wrong place. You serve a different God than I do, brother and sister. Because the God I serve wants me to make me into something. So He puts me through these crucibles all the time to keep changing me. And thank you, Lord, for that. That's my daily prayer. Keep me in there, Lord. Your daily bread, that's part of it. So we came over here, and then we're like, well, we can always go back. In the back of our minds, both of us say, well, maybe we'll go back one day. And then, like a few, I don't know when it was, 6 months ago, sometime in the last year, both of us, my wife and I, always said, well, maybe we should go back someday because, when I get older, maybe it'd be better to be somewhere where they have good medical facilities and blah, blah, blah. And maybe we'll just be tired of it because the Philippines is a rough place. It's a beautiful place. There's many good things here. It's affordable, but it's hot, and it's almost like being in the 1960s, and they're so behind the times. It's so frustrating, and just it's a difficult place in many ways. The people are wonderful and wonderful, and also very, very difficult, just like people anywhere. So I thought, well, maybe we'll go back. And then as we looked into it, we realized we can't go back. We can't afford to go back. There's no place we can live in the U.S. And then we'd have to, anyway, lots of reasons. It has to do with health insurance for my wife and this, and that, and the other. And I realized when you burn in boats, brother, you're on the narrow path. And guess what? You can't go back. You know, no turning back, no turning back. Why? Because I'm on the narrow path. Because and then one more thing. I'll close with this. The ministry building. Here's the plan. Here's what happened. And once again, a lot of this, it could just be my imagination. This crazy old 70-year-old man, he just thinks he's. By the way, just so you know, I do have people like my wife, and I have some mentors. I have a missionary mentor. I have people that I check in with, and I'm not really 100% of a maverick. I do pay attention. I do ask the Lord to keep me humble every day, and He's really good at that. So don't worry about me being some crazy. And if I am crazy, then don't watch. I don't care. I'm here for Jesus. Well, I should say I don't care. I do care. I hope that you can become a disciple of Christ. I hope you can follow Christ. Hope you have the heart and the courage to say whatever you want, Lord, and cut your own boat someday, brother, sister. All right, so this ministry building down here. So here was the plan that we felt was led by God. And when I say led by God, I might come back one day and do another series on the guidance of God. And there's different things you can do to realize what's the guidance of God. And I do believe that it's not vague. So I read a book about it. It says, well, it's kind of vague, and people are trying to be in the center of His will, and not for every little thing. And I do agree, it's not for every little thing. It's for the ministry. But I do don't think it's vague. And there's several things that have happened over the course of the time that were outside events and different people, and the Scripture, and my wife and I, and the Lord spoke to us at the same time in different places, and we both knew what we were supposed to do, and that's how we operate, right? So it's a solid thing. It really is. So I feel like the Lord told me, take this money that you got from the sale of your house in California, take half of it and build a house for your wife here, right here, with the house I'm in, right here. And then down here on the beach, we have some property. I want you to build a ministry building. And then someday, you're going to give that building away. Because I don't know if you notice this. This is spoiler alert. I'm not going to live forever, unless the Lord comes back and raptures me, and everyone or whatever. And unless the millennium comes, I'm not going to be here. And so that's one of our huge prayers is, Lord, lift up somebody or send somebody, that has the heart for it. And so far, He is starting to lift people up here, and we're grateful for whatever, and everything's in God's timing. So we take half the money and we build our house first, and then the builder did a great job. He did a great job. He gave us cove ceilings. He did a great job. It's a wonderful house. It was fine. And then down here at the beach, we get it started. Here we go. And then he conned me out of 2 million pesos, the rest of the money. And so we ran out of money, and so right now I can't leave. Why? Because I can't leave that undone. I feel like it's a real life practical thing that God's put in front of me, and you keep wondering, well, God, why would you tell me to build this place if you're going to allow this guy to steal the money? And now what are we going to do? And it'll never get done. And you start getting real depressed. And the Lord told me a long time ago, whose building is that, David? Oh, it's your building, Lord. Then why are you worried about my money? Okay, Lord. So I would say almost always I don't worry about it anymore. But it's something that needs to be done. That's it's a real thing. It's an actual thing. It needs to be done. So that's another reason that I can't turn around. I can't just leave it, you know. Unless God takes me home. If God takes me home, then I don't know what's going to happen. The Lord knows. This is all His plan, guys. And He's teaching me patience. But He's also teaching me that we're not going anywhere real soon. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to continue on the path He's given me, and I'm going to take it day by day, step by step, one day at a time, Lord. And I'm grateful for the one day I have. I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful when He temporarily pauses the ministry for a couple of weeks. Why? There's been so many amazing things that have happened to me because of my time with Him and the downtime. He sometimes it says, what does it say? Psalm 23. It says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil. For He makes me lie down in green." Just so you know the verbiage there, He makes me lie down. Not He says, "Look at that place over there. You want to go lay down?" "Oh yeah, Lord." No, it's like you're going to lie down. So I was sick last week. He made me lie down, and then right now I can't do the ministry this week. So what am I doing? Well, I'm doing other things. I'm still building my boats as I did. I had that video called "I Got Boats to Build," and the boats that I got to build is fulfilling the ministry God's given me, guys. So yeah, if you take the narrow path, you may not be able to, and you don't want to turn around anyway, do you? Do you? Like, can you lose your salvation? Well, no, you can't lose your salvation. That's a settled fact. But if you're, as long as you're John 3:6 in it, in other words, whosoever is believing, you is believing, and as long as you love God and you follow Him, then you're going to follow Him and down that narrow path. And if it becomes a scary place or whatever, and it becomes narrow, and you can't turn around, then don't turn around. Say, "I will trust you, Lord, when I don't know why." God bless you guys. Ta ta for now.